right. Welcome back to Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. This is episode number 103. I'm that other dude, Andrew. And as always, I'm joined by Heather.
Hello.
And today we're talking Witchthroat Serpent from Toulouse, France.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say Toulouse, France.
It's kind of fun to say.
It is. So I will hand you the reins and you can gallop.
Well, I think I first heard of Witchthroat Serpent from someone that I followed on Instagram, and they were raving about it. This was back when their album Sang Dragon was out, and it seemed right up my alley, so I made it a point, to check it out and check out their music. And I followed them on Bandcamp, and needless to say, I got super excited when I got the notification that their newest album came out, and that's called Trove of Oddities at the Devil's Driveway. And that was released in March of 2023. And I knew when I listened to it that eventually we would be talking about it. No, I took the time to listen to their whole discography, and they have really cultivated their sound throughout the years. Their latest album, which I thought was really interesting, was it was recorded live on analog tape. So there was nothing digital. It was all analog. And it gave it kind of a gritty sound, which I think is really perfect, for this type of doom music. They have great song titles like Nosferatu's Mastery and The House That Dripped Blood and Mountain Temple in Bleakness. Very doom. I love the old school horror themes, and this is classic doom with just the right amount of everything. The psychedelic style to the vocals, the fuzz, the reverb, the wah, the classic horror movie samples, the amazing guitar solos. I mean, it's all expertly put together. So, what did you think?
Well, I'm just realizing now that I didn't look up to see whether or not Witchthroat Serpent meant anything other than just being a cool name. Um, I think now that I see the album cover for what did you Sang Dragon? Was that what you had mentioned?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember um, either stumbling upon that on YouTube and seeing the album, but somehow there was like a top list. I might have looked into like good contemporary doom albums, um, within the last 20 years or so, and that was definitely on there. So I think I listened to some tracks on Sang Dragon, and I remember thinking, okay, I gotta keep this in the back pocket. Not so that we could discuss it, but just so I would have it in my rotation. And I think somewhere along the way I did. I think Sang Dragon was on because when I went to go add the newest album to iTunes, I saw that I had Sang Dragon there. So I did listen to it, and then at some point it fell off the rotation. It shouldn't have, but it did. So then this time I worked backward from I also have it written down because I knew I wouldn't. Trove of Oddities at the Devil's Driveway. I feel like that should be the title of if Joe Bob Briggs ever leaves the last drive-in, that would be like, or that could be a podcast that he would host with Darcy the Mail Girl.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, again, incredible album name and something that I would just the Devil's Driveway alone. Not to mention, it's a trove of oddities on the Devil's Driveway. But yeah, it's I couldn't quite. They have a really wonderful formula Like you had just mentioned, there's just the right amount of psychedelics, just the right amount of horror film sampling, just the right tone. Um, yeah, in fact, here I created a Doom axis graph, an XY graph that I thought might be good to use in the future. So on the top, you've got thick, distorted, and on the bottom, clean. So like a Witchfinder General, I would say, for example, would be more toward the clean, whereas Saint Vitus might be more thick, distorted. And then progressive psychedelic all the way to the left, and then sludge, Dungeons and Dragons, Italian 60s horror to the right. Now, that may need to be tweaked because the opposite of psychedelic isn't necessarily Italian 60s horror, but I think I just got caught up in descriptions. But they seemed, I would probably put them like they're probably like a circle that goes across a bunch of different quadrants. Like I don't think you would put them, here, for example, but because they do have elements of psychedelic and clean. The riffs are very sort of thick, distorted doom, and then they do have some samples that are really cool. But I couldn't think of any. When I heard them, It didn't tip me off that they're similar to anyone else. They're very much a unique band. Um, so I went backwards. I really dug Trove of Oddities. Um, and then the second album I listened to was called Swallow the Venom. And the greatest track name on the album is No More Giant Octopuses, which, I mean, that is like a title track. No more giant octopus, not just no more giant octopuses. The other interesting thing, I'd be curious to know this, in the track Pauper's Grave, there is like static, like about 30 seconds in for maybe 5 or 10 seconds before the music comes back in. And at first I thought it was like a problem with the track. And it reminded me of the Andy Kaufman movie, Man on the Moon with Jim Carrey. There's a scene where he does a comedy special, and he purposefully asks the technician to screw with the whatever the picture so it goes up and down, because he wants to play a practical joke on the audience. He said, it'll be funny because everyone will get up and go and check their television set to see what's wrong with the picture, when in actuality, nothing will be wrong with the picture. So I wondered if Witchthroat Serpent, now if I go back and listen to it, it's probably more musically prevalent than I'm giving it credit for. But at the time, I thought, wait a second, why is there static? Why is there, this sounds garbled? So I went back, I rewound it like 5 or 6 times and realized, oh, no, I think this is part of the track. So I would be curious of that. But yeah, this is really right in the sweet spot of doom. Like if you're looking for a place to throw the one true ring to get it melted so it doesn't fall into Sauron's hands, it's Witchthroat Serpent. It's like the right, this is where doom is forged. Like you go to Toulouse, France, and you knock on Witchthroat Serpent's door and you demand some of the doom that they're cooking up, because it's really solid.
Yeah.
Now you listen to their entire discography. I have only listened to Trove of Oddities and Swallow the Venom in its entire, that I recently. Sang Dragon I listened to probably last year or 2 years ago, so I need to go back. But I would imagine that it's all very awesome. It's of the same cloth.
Yeah, their very first album is very there's a lot of distortion, a lot of fuzz and distortion. And then it seems like their sound throughout after that and throughout the next albums, it seems like their sound, even though there is some distortion and some fuzz, it's not really prevalent like it was in their first album. It's a lot more refined. So I could definitely tell that their sound is really evolved throughout the years and throughout their albums. And it just seems like this last album was just, it's like it's just like everything. I thought everything was just the perfect amount of everything. Like it was so well thought out.
Well, I think that they recently added a second guitar. They had been a three-piece, and then they added a fourth member to play second guitar. So I wonder how much of it can be attributed to the fact that there's a second guitar in there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That probably added a lot to the
But
sound. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is like, I often say that, I need to replace some of the bands who I love from the genre who aren't making music anymore. And I feel like, I've got Purple Hill Witch, Slow Green Thing, King Bastard. There's always like another band coming up, and I feel like I need to carve a place for which they're like, this pedestal is reserved for Witchthroat Serpent, because they're like the culmination of all the stuff they're doing. It's like I said, it's right in the sweet spot of doom. So they will never again fall out of play on my rotation. I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna go on.
myself as someone who appreciates horror, when there's horror elements with doom, that's like the perfect combination for me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm going to, if time travel's invented, rather than going to like the signing of the Declaration of Independence or when Rome fell, I'm going to return back to myself 2 years ago and be like, dude, don't sleep on Witchthroat Serpent. So I'll be making good use of time travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, this was another great. It's funny because like I remember thinking to myself at the time that I listened to Sang Dragon, like, okay, don't don't sleep, don't miss this. Like, this is, you should definitely go find more of their music. And then I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Something
And
was,
I know you mentioned that you may have heard them before, and I was like, yeah, you probably have.
yeah,
You probably, because they've been around for a while.
yeah. Well, I
So
think what Sang Dragon was 2006.
I think so.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, almost 20 years at least, and I think they've been around before then. So
Yeah. So they've been playing music for a while now, and I imagine a lot of people that are fans of Doom have probably heard them and
sure.
are fans of theirs, you know. So, but I still thought, I like this album, their latest album. I like it
Yeah.
so much
Well,
that I
this,
definitely wanted to talk about it.
yeah. So I mean, we like, I don't think we've really set a bar in terms of like how popular or well known a band needs to be for us to talk about them. Because I
Yeah.
think we've talked about bands who've just recently gotten on Bandcamp, um, who are so excited that we know who they are, to like bands who have thousands of followers already. Um,
Yeah.
as long as
Yeah.
you're making music, we will talk about you on our show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this was another excellent choice, Heather. I'm glad
Thank
you
you.
you suggested it. So
Yeah, and
and go on.
another thing another thing I like is we don't exclusively talk about just Doom. We talk
Oh yeah,
about, you know, other, you know, other forms of music too, which I really like because
Sure.
I like to try to stay open-minded about, all genres of music.
Absolutely.
And
And
though Doom is my favorite.
we go around the world too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've got music from all over.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah. Well, this is great. So check out Witchthroat Serpent. I guess I would recommend starting at the most recent album and working your way back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's something for you there.
And bands that are coming out of France. It's funny because I put another on our calendar for an upcoming episode. I put another French band on there. So
Cool. Well, I
there's
look for,
good
yes,
bands coming out of France.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to hearing whomever it is.
Yeah.
So have a good one, everyone out there. Go listen to Witchthroat Serpent.